Season 3 of Ricardo's Rules of Resilience podcast is brought to you by Triple R Nutrition. Triple R Nutrition is a very clean, very pure way for you to get all the nutrition you need. It doesn't matter if it's whey that I'm holding right here, creatine, daily multivitamins, fat burners, rest, sleep, anything you need. Very clean. It's very pure, but it doesn't just stop with how much it does for your body. This line of supplements was designed specifically to support the Envision La Fuente ministry in the country of El Salvador that takes disadvantaged youth and offers them a brighter future through education. Be a part of doing great things for your body and doing great things in the world. Triple R Nutrition. See in the show notes exactly the link to click on and get everything you need to help yourself and help the world be a better place.
That's right. Yeah. Ricardo's Rules of Resilience. Tune in, people. Every episode is impactful. You become more burly just by listening. Let's go.
I'm just somebody who's embraced life's journey, its ups and downs, its trials, its triumphs, its tears, its laughter, its wins and losses, and its experiences, because all of that creates who we are. And that's about life is adapting. I can't do what I did when I'm in my 20s, 30s, or even 50s, but it doesn't mean you stop doing it. You do it a different way.
We had Tim Carter on, and he even referenced you as the Yoda in his life, someone that he always comes to when he has stuff. So I thought this would be a great question to ask you in terms of what does resilience mean for you, and how does it help to shape what your day-to-day looks like?
Well, resilience
Welcome, everybody, to the Ricardo's Rules of Resilience podcast, the podcast where we give you the tools to withstand and recover from difficulties. I'm your co-host, Coach Alton, along with Coach Ricardo.
And today we have a super special guest. Guys, we are joined by Larry Indiviglia. He has been in the fitness industry for 35 years. And 48 years ago this June, he graduated from the Naval Academy. He is a coach to coaches, and I tell you what, Larry is loved by the people he coaches like few people are. And I was there the day that we did Larry's farewell, and the people in his cohort that he coached were crying, real tears, not oh, there's one in the corner of my eye, but we're really sorry to see you retire because of the great love and respect they had for you, Larry. We are honored to have you as our guest today.
Well, Ricardo, that's a humbly a very nice introduction, and I thank you and Alton for the fine work you're doing on your Resilience podcast. It's really, really important for young guys like you to pick up the ball, all right, and keep things going in this great industry of fitness that we're in coaching that we're in, serving others. And so I thank you guys for one, creating the podcast, and two, inviting me on it. So looking forward to providing some information and good value to your valued guests who are listening in.
Definitely, yeah, we're super honored to have you on today. So for any viewers that may not know you, if you could give us a quick elevator pitch on who you are and what you're about.
Sure. You know, I'd like to say number first, I am a fitness professional, and I have been 35 plus years in San Diego, California. I've been very blessed to be out here in San Diego for all these years. Um, so I would say, just as an intro, I'm a man of faith. Okay, I believe that's guided my life through my almost 70 years now. And I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm a granddad, okay? I'm a fitness pro, I'm an author, I'm a friend, I'm a colleague, okay? I am a coach, and I have been coached, okay? And and Ricardo, I had mentioned to you when we were talking, I'm just kind of somebody who's embraced life's journey, okay? Its ups and downs, its trials, its triumphs, its tears, its laughter, its wins and losses, and its experiences, because all of that creates who we are. Okay, and I think when we talk about resilience, you have to have some of that, okay, to get through the journey of life, okay, because it's people sometimes look at you and what you've attained, but in many cases, it's always how you got up after a punch to the face or after a blow to the body, right? Or after a loss or some disappointing event. It's how you respond to that and come back from it, that people look at you as a person. But that's a little bit of an intro of, I think, just me overall.
And Coach, you have helped so many people in part because of your own willingness to share from the heart and to share vulnerably and to let other people hear. Here's how you have encountered tragedy. Here's how you have encountered trials and overcome. Would you just select one of those examples for our audience and give us a life lesson from it?
Yeah, the toughest one, because sometimes Ricardo and Alton and to everybody out there, people will ask you, if you look back at your life, is there one thing that you wish you wouldn't have done or wish that wouldn't have happened? And, mine was an early, very difficult experience for me. I had graduated the Naval Academy in June 8th, 1977. My whole family came down to participate in the weekly events down there. It's a big deal. They really do make it a big deal. The Blue Angels fly over the stadium. Many times the president or the vice president will be the guest speaker, there at the academy. So it's a big deal. And it was a great week. And the interesting thing was all glory and sometimes all triumph is fleeting in life. And it was a Wednesday. I remember to this day that I graduated. And two of the people who came down were my older sister Barbara, who was 28 years old, and my dad's sister, my Aunt Teresa, who was 54. They had come down from New York. They flew down actually. And the next day, it was a Thursday, I had to drive them to the airport. As I recall, I think we left at 10 a.m., something like that. I remember it was a rainy day, and I remember I was a little tired. It was a big week emotionally, mentally. I didn't, party the night before or anything like that. It was just, I was tired a little bit. And I had to take them to the airport, and I was driving. And in a nutshell, without getting into too many details, we did not make it. So at the outskirts of that airport, I was in a horrific car accident. I survived. They did not. I was 21 years old. That's a tough one. That's a tough one, guys. And you sit down there, it becomes a surreal experience. That happens to other people. You read about that stuff in the newspapers, right? It's never me. And then you're sitting in a hospital with a concussion, and I'm 21 years old, and you're trying to make sense of it all. But it's that's where your faith comes in, and the Lord has a purpose for your life and a plan, and you have to. I believe that. And sometimes, if you look at an event like that, and you just go, "Whoa." Um, it's easy to give up, but I had a career to start in the Navy, and I was very lucky. I was able 4 days later to get out of the hospital. I attended both my sister's and my aunt's funeral, and it kind of set, that was my first real, kick in the gut. You know what I'm saying? Like really some tough stuff. But you have to move forward. And I remember my dad said, "Hey, you don't have to do anything special in life here, Larry. God spared you for a reason. So go out and live your life." And the best thing, guys, that happened to me is I had to go right back out. I had to get out to San Diego and meet my ship and start my naval career. And so I didn't have time to sit around, mope around. So I will say this though. The 4 years at the academy, very demanding, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, as such. That prepared me for that horrific event. I feel that if I didn't have all those areas fairly strong in my life, it might have gone down a different road. And I didn't have time to sit down there and process it. I had to go out there. And fortunately, I did. I was able to get out to San Diego, start my naval career. But that was the first one where you just really, you do question a lot of things in life, but I was able to move forward, and I learned a lot from that experience. And if I look back and say, do I wish it never happened? Yes, I wish it never happened, but it did. So you've got to move forward from it, and then you learn from it, and then you always remember the people, obviously, that were affected. So yeah, that was the first one. That was a tough one. Not to get off on a very maudlin or dark note here, but that's a real answer.
Definitely. I appreciate you sharing that story with us and our listeners. And as people of faith, we love to talk about faith on the podcast. But one of the things, it's kind of easy for us to sit here on this platform and just say, like, God's going to work it out for the greater good. But in that moment, what were some ways that you could kind of trust in that process? I know you said you didn't really get a lot of time to process it, but what are some ways that you can really entrust God during that moment, in moments like that?
I prayed a lot, and so I did not have a reaction to be mad at God, because sometimes you can. I wasn't happy, no, but I wasn't like, how could you let this happen to me, and then turn away from God, because sometimes people do that, okay? And I'm not judging anybody, but I didn't. I actually got deeper into faith and just communicated more with God and says, well, obviously you want something from me and you're going to set me on a course because that's what you want me to do. So I prayed a lot, talked with him a lot, communicated a lot, talked to a lot of other people of similar, of similar mind, body, and views, and I think that was one of the things that I communicated more with the Lord rather than not. Through prayer, through written word every day, a little bit of journaling, and, basically appreciating, you appreciate life when it's almost taken away from you, or when somebody real close to you loses their lives. But in my particular case, and you probably would ask, well, did you have a lot of survivor's guilt? Especially since I was driving the car, and I just tried not to go there because that could really bring you down. So again, I looked at it from a faith-based view. This was God's will, and even though I may not agree with it, I had to accept it. And in accepting it, you then accept him more, and then you have a deeper walk with him. That's what happened in my case. Yeah.
That is beautiful and very helpful to us and to everyone listening. It reminds me of a couple of things. One, it reminds me of right after Jesus fed the 5,000 and he told them, that you must eat my flesh and drink my blood to have. And these big crowd that was so happy and following him wanted to hear,
Yeah.
thousands of people. And they were turning away and turning away. And Jesus turns to the disciples and says, what about you? Are you going to leave too? And Peter answers, where else are we going to go? Only you have the words of eternal life. And, I've always read into that. Like, I wish there was another option right now because this is kind of hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and
That's
I, that's what you're saying. Like, don't turn away from the one source you have.
yeah. And it's if you didn't have faith, man, it'd be a tougher road to go down. Just my particular example, and there's many, many others that people have participated in. And it's interesting when you lose somebody, especially under those conditions, or even when you lose your immediate family members in life. And if you had the honor of doing a eulogy for one of your immediate family members or a friend or a colleague, anybody. I've done four of them. I'm not trying to brag upon that, and I wish I did not have to do it for four family members: my sister, my older brother, dad, and my mom. Of course, I'm a little bit older now, but is I would always welcome everybody that we are here, brothers and sisters. We have something in common. Anybody who comes into that memorial service or church, whatever it is, if they have not had a loss in their life, God bless them, right? I mean, but 99% of people walking in, they've had some pain. They've lost somebody. And so we all have that in common when we do come together. when you say a few words and reflect back on a person's life. So that's where you learn too. That's part of resilience, to be able to do that and to be able to share something meaningful and moving or memorable, about that person at the time. But it does come down to faith, and for people who may not believe in an afterlife or anything else, when tough stuff happens in life, I have to believe Ricardo and Alton, it's got to be tougher to handle. To me, it's got to be tougher to handle.
That's great stuff. I really appreciate the insight that you have on that. And how do you feel as though experiencing stuff as that has kind of helped you to become the person that you are today? And obviously, that's not the only struggles that you've gone through during your life, but experiencing those times of difficulty have helped to shape you and make you into the person that you are today.
Well, with hardship, it does make you stronger. To use your term, Coach Ricardo and Coach Alton, it does build resilience. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be though, an adverse situation or event or trauma to build resilience. You guys are examples of that, and a lot of your listeners. You build resilience by strengthening your body, by strengthening your brain, and strengthening your mind. Okay? So when tough times come, you have experienced working hard. Okay? You've experienced testing your body, improving your brain, hence improving your mind. I like to use the body as the chief executive officer. It starts there, and then the brain is the chief operating officer, and then the mind develops because the brain is healthy. And studies have shown now, guys, that you can do a lot physically, and that's going to metabolically, physiologically help some of the brain. Okay, it's many studies out that way. So as far as resilience goes, and doing some things during my time, I've always started with the physical body. For me, that was my centering. But in looking back now, it's helped me get through adverse events, whether it be a car accident. I fell down a flight of stairs and broke my neck, okay, when I was 52 years old. And again, if I wasn't in good physical shape, I might not have survived that as I don't want to say easily, as successfully as I did. So there's things you can do as far as working out, challenging yourself, whether it be an event, a competitive event, working out every day, okay, just staying on a good regimen and routine, okay, so that builds resilience. You are used to being uncomfortable, and your body builds up that ability and that endurance to be uncomfortable. So when uncomfortable and life throws you a tough curveball, you're able to handle it. So I do think that the ability to build resilience before a tough trial in your life, that's part of it. On the other side, too, if you get through such trauma or such a tough event, or it doesn't always have to be trauma, okay? It could be in an athletic field and it's a tough loss, okay? Nobody's happy there. That builds your resilience like, okay, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? Okay, so that you learn from it in order, to win another day down the road. So I think there's an association there, some of the things that you can do. But for me, it always starts with the physical, because I do believe that once your physical's right, there's so many processes in the body that's going to help the brain and then help your mind. And as one of our mentors always say, right, you have to get your mind right, but I think you have to get your body right. I think you have to get your body right
Yeah.
first. I do. I do.
Yes, and you could, as you have alluded to, you could talk for another hour about all the research that shows dopamine and the brain chemicals that start getting right when you'll just get moving. And what you're saying there, sounds similar to what we say, one of Ricardo's rules, success is getting up one more time then you get knocked down. And, you're describing it so beautifully that you don't stay down. When you get knocked down, you get right back up. You get on the treadmill or to the weight room or, whatever it is for you. You get moving, you get your body going and not just stay there and wallow in it. The temptation is the opposite, right? The temptation is, oh,
Yeah.
life's overwhelmed me. I need to step back. I need to throw my hands up. And the fact of the matter is, no, we need to get right back up, dust ourselves off, and keep going.
Yeah, staying in the arena, Ricardo and Alden, staying in the arena is important, okay? Because being a spectator all your life is not going to build resilience, okay? Because you've never really fully tested yourself. And now there's limits to that. Okay, some people say, well, there's no limits. There's some limits to it. Okay, but I think what you do is you pick the endeavors and the activities. Okay, that I think we all tend to go to activities that we really have a chance to be good at. If you're a good swimmer, maybe you're going to get into swimming. If you're a decent runner and a decent biker and a good swimmer, maybe you try a triathlon. You know what I mean? So I think that we do gravitate into endeavors and activities that we feel we could be successful at. Doesn't mean they're easy, but maybe we have a little bit of DNA in order to do that. Some people are super coordinated. So they may tend to go to more skilled sports. Doesn't mean skilled sports are easy. In fact, they're really tough for me. Golf or tennis. Say, wow, those are easy. Well, they may be easy in a different way, but they're harder in another way. So if a person says, hey, I'm pretty coordinated, hand-eye coordination, I think I can do some of those skilled sports, then I'll say, you still got to get out there. You still have to get out there. So I think picking some of those areas and still competing and testing yourself and putting yourself in the arena, it's a big deal. I really do think that really is a big deal in life.
As someone that's wise, and we had Tim Carter on, and he even referenced you as the Yoda in his life, someone that he always comes to when he has stuff. So I thought this would be a great question to ask you in terms of what does resilience mean for you, and how does it help to shape what your day to day looks like?
Well, resilience is being able to do things that you need to do when maybe you're not ready to do. Okay. And I think that we all have the ability, if we so choose, and I do believe resilience is a choice. It's a choice to work hard, it's a choice to do the things on a daily basis, to show some discipline, whether it's waking up an hour earlier in the morning, whether it's perhaps not eating, taking a full lunch hour. If you work, let's say, for a company, you can take 30 minutes and maybe do some exercise and then, do some lunch for 30 minutes. You utilize that time. It takes discipline. But resilience is something I feel you need to do so that you prepare yourself for life. Needing to do things, moving physically, doing mental tasks. And those are the type of things that build mental, emotional, physical endurance, and just kind of bring that into your lifestyle every day. Okay. And to challenge yourself every day. But resilience is something that you need to do so that will permit you to get through life's challenges. And I think it's different areas: mental resilience, emotional resilience, physical resilience. It's not always all physical, and spiritual. So it takes practice and discipline in those four areas of life. Now, for me, I start from the physical every day. And when I do that, then that permits me to operate better mentally and emotionally with relationships and also spiritually with the Lord. Now, some people may start with say, well, working out is a spiritual religious experience. Well, I don't know if I'd go that far, but you certainly, depending on the type of workout you're having, you can talk to the Lord during those times when you're working out. Okay. And now if you're doing really challenging intervals and high intensity interval training, I don't know. You might not be talking to anybody. You're just trying to get through that minute, right? Or that 20 seconds. But anyway, that's kind of my view on resilience a little bit. Yeah.
You know, Larry, I referenced this earlier, and we were in Florida together at a conference with Todd Durkin, and I
Mm.
just want to speak to, I mean, people inside the health industry, health and fitness space, if that go to continuing education events, the big ones like
Mm.
Perform Better or Ideal World, they know Todd Durkin. People
Sure.
outside don't really. He was a personal trainer to so many professional athletes that it's crazy. Can't even start naming them, right?
Correct.
Super Bowl champions and Heisman Trophy winners. But you've been with Todd for a long time, and the day that we were announcing your retirement, I mean, saying our farewell and bringing your retirement,
Yeah.
this is going to be your last meeting with us. And Todd was broken up as well as the people
Yeah.
in your cohort because and he specifically referenced what a pillar of support you had been to him and wisdom you had shared through the years. And so I would just like you to share with us, as you've coached so many people, you're a coach to coaches, you train the trainers.
Yeah.
What are the things that you have felt have really been the consistent themes that you've had to share with coaches when they're trying to coach others?
Yeah. That's a great question, Ricardo. And the 17 years that I worked pretty closely with Todd were, really, I look at it as one of the top three highlights of my life, being able personally and professionally. And and it leads to the answer here. In working with Todd, he looked at life as always a teaching or learning moment. Okay, and sometimes many of us, I'll say most don't look at life that way. And anytime I thought he didn't look, he's not looking at this, but he would always observe and look at it, and there'd be either a teaching moment because of what he just experienced or observed, or a learning moment. Sometimes both. And that's a very healthy way to go through life, okay? Because you're not sleepwalking through it. So I would say, in the answer to your direct question is, do look at life as a series of teaching and learning moments. Be open to the learning moments, okay? And then also be open to the teaching moments. And I think for many coaches too is leading by example, okay? A willingness to get in the trenches, okay? Being enthusiastic and being willing to work hard. But here's the most thing when it comes to coaching, Ricardo, and you guys have been coaches and have experienced coaches in your athletic and professional endeavors, and many of your listeners, is you have to be coachable. You have to want to be coached if you're a coachee. And if you're a coach, you dang well better want to coach. It starts there. Okay, because you probably have seen it, I have. Sometimes you have somebody that's just, quote, not coachable. You're trying to reach them, you try a lot of different things. And this is not the majority of people I've experienced, but you do get a few. They don't want to be coached. Okay, you can only do so much. And coaching as a profession, whether it's your primary endeavor or profession, or perhaps part of something else you do, I mean, you have to want to do it. Okay. It is not a transactional endeavor, right? Profession. You have to want to serve the person. You have to want to help the person and guide, but you're not going to be able to do it for them. They have to want it, and you have to be able to lead them in such a way. I think it comes like this. I've always said to the other coaches, one, set the expectations. All right, here's my coaching program. Here's what we're doing. Set the expectations, communicate them. Make sure the coachee understands that. Then they will build trust in you. They will trust you. Hey, Coach Ricardo, I know where you're coming from. You've laid it out. I may not agree with everything you're saying, but I know where you're coming from. I know your standards. And so there's no ambiguity. Then they trust you because you continue to communicate that. And then I'll use another word. I've said this to a lot of coaches is reinforcement. So you have standards, you can communicate them, but it's not always new standards because only there's only so much new information, guys, and new ways of doing things somebody can absorb. So you go with your core convictions and the things that you know work, and then you just reinforce those. And that, as a coach, is a key. The communication comes in the reinforcement. And sometimes the reinforcement, somebody may need, I'm not saying physically hit them, but they need real talk. Other people don't respond to real talk. They'll turn off. So you still have the expectation, but how you deliver it is different. Always remember the discussion years back, prehistoric ages, in basketball coaches. John Wooden, legendary coach from UCLA for many, many years. Bobby Knight from Indiana, the guy throwing the chairs, and both probably loved basketball equally. Okay. Bobby Knight, I'm sure he did, and I'm sure we know John Wooden did. Their techniques and how they delivered their convictions were different. Okay, they were different. And, Knight had a certain way of doing things. John Wooden had a certain way of doing things. But I do believe that people that you coach, your coachees, not everybody is the same. But it doesn't mean you ever diminish your standards. Okay, and what you're about, what you know that works as a coach. So leading by example, okay, definitely wanting to coach and making sure you have players or coachees that want to be coached. Okay, that really starts it there. And then, of course, having a system. Okay, having a system that you adhere to. And of course, you've heard this before. Celebrate the wins. Celebrate the wins. Encourage. And somebody needs those, words of affirmation. Give them to he or she. That means a lot. So they realize, hey, they did a good job. They've achieved something special. And it's not always, okay, well, next thing, we can't, all glory's fleeting. We know that. But it's good to celebrate those. And I think, Ricardo, you said that in one of your, remember those 13 or 12 precepts you had in one of the mastermind shares you did? And I think it was, I should remember, but it was making sure you celebrate. You could probably tell me what it was, but I remember
Yeah,
that.
that's
Very
that's
super.
one of Ricardo's rules. It's actually right
That's
above
it.
Alton's head. Those who
There.
don't celebrate their wins will eventually stop having them.
Exactly. You couldn't have said it any better. And it's really super important. The good coaches do that because if you're stoic all the time and you don't smile and you don't embrace, I think the modern day coaches do more so. I think sometimes in the in the past, we go back 50 years, some of these iconic coaches, it doesn't mean they weren't special men. Many of them were men. And then, women athletics, 1972, Title IX started giving the opportunities for women to get involved in sports. So you had more women coming into coaching female university teams or high school teams, things like that. So now you have more women coaches. And I think that's been a healthy thing
Yeah.
because you're more apt now to celebrate the wins and to actually embrace your players after a win, and certainly after a loss too, because we learn from the losses. But yeah, the wins are super important.
We have to celebrate those wins, as you've said very well. And I think the pendulum in some cases has swung so far that we have to be careful that we are celebrating real things.
Yes.
We've gotten to the place where everyone knows your positive comments have to outweigh your negative, but they need to be meaningful. We can't just be giving throwaway comments of "that's awesome," "this is awesome." When something's awesome, let's make sure we say that. When something's average, let's make sure we say that. But we need
Correct.
to be able to tell the truth and have a real sense of authenticity in that celebration and in the compliments we give if they're going to be
Yeah.
meaningful.
Yeah. Relevant to what we just experienced, to what we just achieved. You may say meaningful, great word. In many cases, moving, in many cases, memorable. Okay, because you want to take that forward. You definitely want to take it forward because that does build momentum. And and then the other thing in coaching, and I think y'all maybe experience this too, is listen more, talk less. Listen more, talk less. Okay, because that's where you get to know somebody. Um, And you have to sometimes watch yourself because you could have so much wisdom and experience and knowledge and education and a bunch of things as a coach, but I've done my best learning from the people that I've coached. You may think about that in our industry, right? I've learned more from personal training clients and people in group classes than maybe they've learned from me, okay? Because it's a life thing and it's a deeper purpose for why we're in that room. We're all trying to get better together. But you do learn a lot from the people that you're coaching, that you're training, that you're guiding. But you have to be open to that. You have to be open to that, and listening is a real key. And Todd would always say too. Sometimes Todd Durkin, you listen by looking at somebody's eyes because the eyes speak. It's not always just what they're saying, their body language and their eyes. And you can learn a lot from that. It's most of us, very few have gotten there alone. I go back in life, I don't think I could find one thing that I've accomplished of note without somebody being involved. Perhaps a mentor, perhaps a coach, perhaps a colleague, perhaps a fellow teammate, somebody, a consultant, a family member. It's never alone. And if we ever try to go out there and do it all alone, it's a tough road to hoe. Don't recommend it.
Going back a little bit, you got two ears and one mouth for a reason, right? You gotta with
Yeah.
listening more than you talk.
Dalton.
And going back even a little bit further, when you were talking about John Wooden and Bobby Knight, the two different coaching styles, how do you make sure that you're remaining authentic to who you are and what you are, and it's not just a facade that you're putting on with your coaching style and really just with your lifestyle in general, that you're remaining true to who you are and to your core values and everything?
Yeah, you hit on the right word right there is core values. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I think especially in our society today, in the year 2025, so many distractions, a lot of noise out there. But you want to be able to distinguish noise from a valid signal. So if you have your core values, and Ricardo's got them, Alton, I know you have them, many of your listeners out there have them, and you make sure those signals, you tune into them, okay? You're not putting out noise. You're not in between channels. You're not, people know where you're coming from. You always stay with your convictions. You live them. You talk about them. You teach them. You espouse them in what you do. Those are signals. Noise doesn't last. It's just like real friends, right? There's a difference between a friend and an acquaintance. My best example, I'll never forget this. I'll go back to the accident. I'm in a hospital at Walter Reed. Okay, I had concussions, bruises. My best friend in the world, who happened to be a type 1 diabetic at age 10, my friend Neil, he left us all too soon at age 58. So I'm sitting in that hospital. I'm 21 years old. I didn't have a lot of visitors, and in walks Neil. Neil drove down from Buffalo, New York, to Washington, D.C. in his beat up Subaru after he heard that I was in the accident. He walks in, spends about a half hour with me, and he goes, Larry, I just had to see you visually that you're okay. I said, well, where are you staying the night? He goes, staying? I go, yeah. He goes, I don't have any money. He was a starving student. Got back in his car, drove 12 hours back to Buffalo. That's a friend. That is not an acquaintance. Okay. And I tell that story because a guy like that, there's no noise there. That's a true signal. That's a true friend, not an acquaintance. So having core values is number one, is practice them as numbers two, communicating them as number three. And it's not communicating them with like, well, I always tell the truth, or I'm an integrity guy, or hard work is something that I feel and I align with and I believe in. When people see you doing it, is living those core values that you set for yourself. Just like one of your rules, Ricardo, celebrating the wins. If you stop doing that, well, then it's not a core value. You do it all the time. And I think now you could tweak. It doesn't mean that you can't add to your list, or you can tweak them a little bit, but the essence of those never go away because that's who you are. And if you ever lose an awareness of who you are, then you'll fall for anything. And that's why I think a lot of people this day and age, if they don't have a good set of core values, they go for the noise out there. And then they have to go through some pain to figure out that it's just noise. It's transactional. It's not a real signal. So that's the way I view that. And then that's the way also that. I think that's super, super important in life. And not only for success, but for significance. I could look back to some people I've worked for in life. And I remember the captain of the first ship that I went to. Nobody really liked the guy, but you know what? They respected him. They said, you know what? If bullets starts flying and we ever got into a war, this guy's not going to be my friend, but you know what? I'm going to survive it because he knows what he's doing. So sometimes you could have a great respect for somebody. You may not like them. Okay, that's a bonus, but you respect what they do and you respect what they're about. And I think confidence and competency go hand in hand. I think we tend to follow people. I don't want to say follow, but to align with people, resonate with people who are confident. And most people who are confident and give that air of being confident, in most cases, they're competent in what they do. So that's some I think about core values and a long answer, but there it is.
I love that long answer because we got to hear so much wisdom in those couple of minutes, Larry. That's just beautiful. Thank you for coaching us. I love these interviews when I get to spend with a professional and a wise person like you sharing an hour of your time that you should be charging me probably $300 for. I feel so much better. Then I'll get to go back and listen to this. This is
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you. It reminds me what you were saying. Benedict Arnold is famous for being a traitor in the American
Hmm.
Revolution, but people forget that he was a hero in the
Yes, he
American
was.
Revolution.
Yes, he
And
was.
George Washington had to reprimand him at one point. And he did the reprimand, but he wrote a personal letter aside and said that we must essentially we must not become lost even to my own character. And
Hmm.
that's what you're talking about, that there is a true north that is outside of ourselves, not what I feel like that day or what the situation may dictate, but here there's a character, something greater than myself that I am accountable to and will follow to so that I don't become lost even to my own character. I'm so grateful for you sharing that. And, as we prepare for these interviews, we want to try to elicit some of the best stuff from our guests, but we always realize there may be something that we didn't ask that we should have, or something that you were hoping we asked that we didn't. So was there any question today we didn't ask, but maybe you want to give us that answer anyway?
Yeah, it comes because I'm at a stage at coming up on my fifth year is life is about adapting. I talked a little bit, we referenced tweaking. You could tweak, some of your core values, add something to it, but the essence stays the same. And that's about life is adapting. I can't do when I was did when I'm in my 20s, 30s, or even 50s, but it doesn't mean you stop doing it. You do it a different way. Okay, you find an exercise that may accomplish the same thing, okay, because a certain exercise you were able to do without even thinking about it 20 years ago is no longer possible. Doesn't mean you're giving in. Now you find a way of doing to get to the result you want, but in a different way. And I think life is about adapting as you move forward. And it's a series of lessons. You've learned what works for you. You stay true to that, but always adapting as you move on so that you don't get stale. You don't throw in the towel, hey, I'm done. Recreation is always good. And new things are always good. And that's the thing that getting back to you never do it alone. I think it's great to be able to work cross generation too. I just don't want to hang around a bunch of old people now. Now that I'm not working, with Todd and for Todd in his environments and his products and services. I'm doing other things now, but I'm not looking, to just hang out with people in their 70s or 80s all the time now. That's not it. So I like to correspond and talk to young guys like you who are out there carrying the torch and are leaders in your own right, because now we're in different times. Some things change, some things remain the same, right? The old John Wooden, we can't have progress without change, but all change is not progress. Okay, so you do have to. If somebody ripped off one of Ricardo's rules, well, we no longer celebrate wins. That's not progress, brother. That might be a change, but it's not progress. So adaptation is the key. You adapt as you move forward in life. Sometimes you'll have age is just a number. Well, yes and no. Okay, there's certain things that age bring on that again you have to. But adaptation is not giving up and it's staying in the arena, but perhaps in a different way.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I wanted to say as well, thank you for your time today and all the insight that you gave us. And if people are wanting some more Larry in their life, I know you're involved in a lot of super cool projects like the B3
Yeah,
bands. And so what's
yeah,
the best way for them to do that, to get more Larry in
yeah.
their life?
If you want to email me directly, I'll just because my email is very short. It's fitx77 at AOL.com. That was the name of my old company. FITX77 at AOL.com. And if you want to see me on LinkedIn, at Larry Indiviglia, at Larry Indiviglia. And at Facebook, I'm at Lawrence Indiviglia. I'm not sure why it's not Larry, but it's not. But in any case, same name, same last name. You can't miss it. But LinkedIn at Larry Indiviglia, at over Facebook at Lawrence Indiviglia, FITX77 at AOL.com. And if there's any interest in BFR training, which is really interesting, the website is lji.prob3.com. So that's lji.prob3.com. So that's the best way to get a hold of me. And I thank you guys for today. It's been really enjoyable. Hope your listeners learned something from it and enjoyed it. I thank you guys for inviting me. Ricardo and Dalton, you guys are doing some awesome work. So continue to keep the torch moving forward. Okay, there's a lot of work yet to be done, and you guys are at the forefront in delivering just some great stuff to people who need you. People who need you, and there's many out there that do.
As always, if you need coaching in resilience or in your hybrid racing, get a hold of us. We love to hear from our listeners. Give us feedback on the show. You can reach out to me at coach.ricardo on Instagram or Ricardo Molinax on Facebook. Season 3 of Ricardo's Rules of Resilience podcast is brought to you by Triple R Nutrition. Triple R Nutrition is a very clean, very pure way for you to get all the nutrition you need. It doesn't matter if it's whey that I'm holding right here, creatine, daily multivitamins, fat burners, rest, sleep, anything you need. Very clean. It's very pure. But it doesn't just stop with how much it does for your body. This line of supplements was designed specifically to support the Envision La Fuente ministry in the country of El Salvador that takes disadvantaged youth and offers them a brighter future through education. Be a part of doing great things for your body and doing great things in the world. Triple R Nutrition. See in the show notes exactly the link to click on and get everything you need to help yourself and help the world be a better place. As